I would be interested, if you want to catch me later, to hear what it felt like to lift the veil up and to stand and look at the quilt. I'd love to hear that from you, your personal experience. But I'll tell you a little bit about what I was thinking when I was making these three. So all three, you'll notice, come from other pieces of vintage quilt tops. I did for these three projects relatively very little new construction. And I felt like that was important because when I'm thinking about my relationship with home, I'm not the only person who ever left home, I'm not the only person who missed home, and I'm not the only person who wanted to come home. I felt like in a sense it was an archetypal story. And so by tapping into those older quilts, I felt like in a sense I was tapping into other people's story, at least in a nod, right? So here on the first quilt, this is the excitement of leaving home. I was bound for New York City, and so these pinwheels, this traditional pattern of pinwheels, seems to be almost like a chakra, you know, like the moving of energy. There's a lot churning here. I chose some of these brighter fabrics to applique on top to just oomph up the color palette a little bit. It's a little dull for something that was supposed to be exciting. It's hand tied. I don't know, it felt like fireworks to me. One of the pieces that you see repeated in all three is this idea of kind of a guiding star. So here's a star, here's one of your stars, and the other one here. There's always something on the horizon guiding us where we need to be. In the second quilt,
wait, Zach?
Yeah.
What's the significance of Thomas the Tank Engine?
Thomas the Tank Engine, as you may have noticed, was selected purely for his color palette. I just love these bright colors and the blues and the reds with this. So I wasn't even thinking about Thomas the Tank Engine, to be honest with you.
He was thinking about you, though.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. Now this middle quilt, this is the after I've been in New York for a little while quilt, and things are just, you know, things are good. I got a job, I got a place to live, things have settled down. But just wasn't feeling like I would hope home would feel. You know, it's feeling a little bit cramped, dense over here. And I remember a very specific moment. We went to a concert, we went to see Jason Isbell perform. And hearing that Southern person get up on stage and tell stories about the South. And he sang a song that, at the moment, I can't think of the name of the song, but he's talking about hand-painted letters on a grocery store window. And standing there in that concert hall, I bust out into tears, because I'm like, I miss the place of hand-painted letters in grocery store windows. And so when I was making this quilt, I was thinking about that time at the concert, and then many other moments like that, but that was kind of the first of a series. And so thinking about the shift, this is a lot of what this piece is doing here. And then we're looking towards this orchard, this paradise, this Garden of Eden, something better out there. I'll tell you, this is a little funny story. The lemon fabric here, there's a little bit up there. Martha Stewart, there's a story about her when she got out of prison. She was back home and she was being interviewed by a bunch of reporters, standing under her lemon tree. And one of the reporters said, "Miss Stewart, what'd you miss most while you were in prison?" And she had to catch herself from saying, "My lemons," and said, "Family." You can find the video on YouTube, it's there for you. Now this last quilt, this is a homecoming quilt. And this is, more than the first two, really a community assemblage here. Caitlin, are you here in the room? Caitlin, we had a long night one night, working this quilt out. Robert gave me a lot of feedback on that middle one. This fabric, this trim, came from instructor, Leslie
Vesperman.
Maybe y'all know her. She gave me this, she was teaching weaving. I said, "Leslie, this would be perfect for my quilt." So she gave me this. These are community blocks, and I hope you got a good chance to see them. These are signatures that people would have written their name probably in a ballpoint pen or something, and then somebody would have embroidered their stitches down to make it more permanent. These people all knew each other. Maybe they were in the same Sunday school class, maybe they were in a gardening club, maybe they were in some kind of civic group, who knows? And they would have been in a quilt together. You can tell when you look at the edges that they were sewn together, but at some point in time, somebody cut them apart. And so it seemed to me to be the right thing, proper thing to do, when you think about homecoming, to bring them back together in one quilt. So here they are. Another thing I think was interesting working with this fabric, I'm not making this stuff up, I'm just standing back watching and observing. The person who gave me all of these signature blocks in the same set gave me this one. So this is bright white and brand new. And to me, this speaks to the idea of like when we move, when we change our location, we're not just changing location, we're also moving through time. We move through place, we move through time, and when we get to the end, we are a different person. When I come back to North Carolina, God willing this year, I will not be the same person I was in 2008. Amen. So many things have changed in my life. So many things have tested me, but also pushed me to become who I am today. And quilting has been a large part of that for me. Quilting has given me a safe place to experiment, to take risks, to try things that I wasn't sure was going to work out. And then sometimes it does. And so that gives me the practice to do it in other areas of my life as well. So that's why when you look at this homecoming quilt, you see a lot of the same material. You see this right here was also at the bottom here. It's also right there, but now it's flipped inside out. You see what I call the seam side, which is to me always the more interesting side. Right? That up there came from the same quilt as this one. One of the things that I was mindful of is how I brought these quilts together. So the first one's hand tied with acrylic yarn. Super fast, super exciting, lots of movement. The middle one was quilted on a long arm. I sent that to my partner's papa's girlfriend in Kingsport, Tennessee. She long armed it for me. And that seemed to me, if that felt like fast and dirty, you know, this felt like mechanical and something about discipline and day after day and toughing it out. And this quilt was the result of many hands sewing together. We had, at one point, a few people come together in a quilt and bee fashion to help me quilt this up. Tammy helped me with this many days. Caitlin helped me with this many days to get it done. We quilted it in the traditional Baptist fan pattern, which a lot of these quilts, this one's Baptist fan, this one's Baptist fan. It was probably, when it comes to bringing quilts together in Southern Appalachia, the #1 quilting pattern, just because it's so easy to do these little concentric curves that look like fans or shells kind of overlapping. You can also see the cool dye that's leached through from the top. So this is my homecoming series, and as I was doing all of that, reflecting on my own autobiography, my own life story, I couldn't help but make the connections in a place called Cherokee County, in a place with the Sedawig Road. Sedawig was not how Sedawig spelled his name, it's not even how he pronounced his name. His real name's over here. You can find it down here in this little square. Situaki, right? Totally different spelling. He was one of the elders of this area, Cherokee, that did a lot with the Quoki Resolution Courthouse that dealt with, are the Cherokee going to be able to stay in this area, or are they going to be driven west? He was a preeminent figure, and his name's not spelled the way he's spelled on the roadside. Another preeminent figure is Olive Dame Campbell, with a line from a song that Robert and Stephanie wrote, Olive Campbell was a dame. Yes, she was. And here I just try to think of all the little things that have made this such a special place, right? To me, the best part of the folk school are the folks. But if I have to go beyond the folks and think about like specific memories, this is what I try to put in here. And so a lot of you know about my rocking chair manifestation. This is a Sack of Sorrows project I can tell you about in just a minute. Had an interview with Foxfire, that's pretty sweet. This is a song I've never heard sung, Martha. I hear you sing this one quite nice, but I'm sure several people do. Because I read about it in the songbook, first page, all God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing lower, some sing higher. I just think that's poetry. Absolute poetry, so I want to make sure that got in there.
You know what? That is poetry.
Martha, you want to sing that song sometime for us?
Well, I'll make David sing it.
I'll take it any way I can get it. We'll work it out. So the sister piece of this quilt, this one says, this is for the iron-shaped burn mark on the floor of Olive's porch. If you didn't notice it,
It's part of the tour.
Olive's porch came with its own iron burn mark. I mean, indisputably an iron. No doubt about it. Love that little mark. We still make things.
That wasn't you.
No, Heather did that. Heather came up with that say, but I love it. Jawbone for all the deer bones and things I found in the woods. A cafeteria tray with a big heart on the plate, because I always felt lunch is my favorite time of day. getting together and stuff. Anyway, Cherokee Nation, tulip poplar. We had a good time slicing up a tulip tree to get the bark off that. I made some good mobiles. I bought this little figurine carving when we went out to Koala, and I wanted to remember the name of the artist, where he was from, and what he carved it out of. And I was gonna write on a little piece of paper, but I thought, I'm gonna lose that little piece of paper. Guess what I won't? Well, I was gonna say, guess what I won't lose, Caitlin, but we did lose this.
Today.
For about 5 minutes, it was gone. But it says Blue Welch from Birdtown carved this from Buckeye, so I'll always remember that. Here we have a little map of Clay and Cherokee counties. The deer, because when I think of the folk school, it's the humans, but it's also the deer. It's also the Carolina wrens. It's also the beavers I've never seen in real life, but I've seen their handicraft. We got the crown, we got the morel mushroom that grew up through the wall. We got the day we went and processed poultry right here, and we got the time when Hazel came out and saw half-butchered chickens and said, oh yum. A little nod to carving, we got a fro here, we got a nod to the auctions that we've been going to. We got, where did that end up? Right behind Lindsay and Lau, the first quilt bomb in the folk school, that old quilt. Some of that old quilt made its way into these homecoming quilts here. We got a banjo for all the lunchtime jams. I just had to pick an instrument. I do love the banjo, but this is for all the instruments out there. This is the racetrack. And this is for Patricia Hembry, my neighbor over at the cottage. But one day I was sitting out carving a spoon one Sunday morning, and I had to run in to get a new knife. And when I came back out, she had hung a little dry erase board about this big on the fence between the cottage and her house, and just said, Zach, come over. She was cleaning out her craft room and had some supplies she thought I wanted. She was. So there's a lot of memories here, a lot of memories. And then I guess the last thing I would share with you is that paradise quilt there in the back. So this is what I call community quilt 2 ways. I put an all call out to folks on the internet. Say, send me some leafy green material. And I got more leafy green material than I know what to do with. So the last thing I'm going to tell you is about what we're going to do with all that stuff on the back table, but we'll get there in a minute. So all this leafy green material rolled in. We were having sewing circles back at the folk school before all this Porch opened up. So I showed folks how to do the basic hand sewing stitches, much like what we did today. And patch by patch, this quilt came together. And so I was tying it together this week. The dream was just to use yarn to tie it together, much like the first homecoming quilt, but it just got lost in this busy quilt. And so I said, let's do some flowers. Because the whole idea of the paradise quilt was to get people engaging in conversations while we were sewing about our connections with the natural world. When was the last time you felt a particularly potent connection to the natural world? And I would tell people about the time that I first discovered the Carolina wren. I was sitting on the porch of my partner's family out at their house out in Chattanooga. And I just discovered what that obnoxiously loud bird was singing, tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle, tea kettle. And I loved it. And one morning I was sitting on the porch with my little bird binoculars, and I feel a little tickle on my finger. I go, ah! And I look over there, and there was this really confused Carolina wren. Just trying to regather its senses. And those kind of moments to me are priceless. Like, what's going on in nature that I have fallen in love with this bird? This bird feels like it's welcoming me home. And then it lands on my finger and I fling it away. But these are the kind of stories that I was wanting to hear from folks. When did you feel a connection with nature? Because I believe if we can tap into those memories, even if they've been a while, and hold them strong, then we'll begin to move to the forefront of our minds what we need to do to keep this place a paradise. You know, that's what I'm thinking about. Made a tiny quilt. These flowers came from Lowell Brasstown Baptist. You know, folks will go decorate the graves like we were talking about. The wind after a while will blow them off. Nobody knows what grave they're supposed to go to. So they just kind of pile them to the side of the woods and eventually somebody cleans them out. But I said, look at all those pretty pieces of fabric. And so here they are. Here they are. I'm going to stick around. I want to say that the best part of I love you too. So, thank you. It's just so beautiful to look around this room and see. I didn't know a single one of y'all. I didn't know most of y'all 5 months ago. And the fact that y'all are here, you turned up to look at these quilts and listen to these stories, I really appreciate it. Olive Dane Campbell started a beautiful thing back in 1925, and it's been a long road since then, but here we are today, and this is still a beautiful place to be. So thank you for each and every way that y'all have come into my life. The places we've hung out, church basements and different places. And when you showed me quilts, you told me stories. We walked in the woods, studied plants, all kinds of things.
We're in a Zoom box together.
Or in a Zoom box together. So I just want to say thank you. And as one tiny way of saying thank you, if you look there behind Jerry and Mary and them, all that stuff on the counter is studio surplus. So if there's anything there that you think you can use for anything, I would love to see a clean counter. So don't be shy, take as much as you think you can use, and I'll be all right. So please keep in touch. If we've ever had a special conversation or a special moment, I hope you won't be a stranger. You can find me, I guess Instagram's probably the best, or website, zachfoster.com will lead you to all the many ways you can get in touch with me.
Tell us what you're doing next.
Okay, next. I'm taking a 3-week road trip. First stop Nashville, because I got a couple burial quilts. That's another thing I do we haven't even talked about. But I got a couple burial quilts. I'm going to do a photo shoot with a buddy of mine who has a natural burial ground out in Nashville. Then I'm heading up to Chicago to visit a quilty friend. Heading up to Milwaukee to visit a quilty friend. Going to teach up at the Great Lakes for a quick week. And then I'm coming back down to Morganton, North Carolina, where I've gotten another residency. Very glad to have got that one lined up. I'm working with a new startup company who is recycling fabric. They take discarded material, shred it up, spin it up, weave it up into brand new material, make clothes out of it and stuff. They've recently teamed up with Smart Wool, so that's kind of a cool thing. And I'll be making 5 quilts for them over the summer. So that'll get me through mid-August. And then I'll start working on the Fall Festival quilt, which I've been invited to do, and I'm very honored to have a piece in the growing election. So I will be seeing y'all again in October if you're there. Thank you
On
very
behalf
much.
of the Quilts School, we can't wait for you to come back. Thank you so much for being our first artist in residence. We love you. We could not have found a better artist in residence, especially for this first thing. Zach stuck through so much with us. He just rolled with the punches, and he had the sweetest spirit, and he is one of the just kindest, most loving people I think I've ever met, and thank you.
I'll take that. Thank you.
And before everyone disperses, we got a little gift for Zach that also needs everyone's participation, so open it, and then we'll let everybody take a turn.
Can I tell y'all, just last September, I was teaching Spanish in a classroom with no air conditioning. And now here I am with y'all. Miracles happen every day, folks. Things are always changing.
I want to hear more about that journey.
It was long and probably boring to the outsider, but I'd be happy to tell you.
Yeah, who's got a pocket knife?
Come on now.
The imperfect.
What's that, Darcy?
The imperfect.
The imperfect tense? Oh, God. Okay. Thank you very much. Do I get to keep the fabric?
You get to keep it out.
Oh! I didn't even tell you about the Sack of Sorrows. So the Sack of Sorrows was another community project that came about during my time here. I don't need to tell y'all that folks are going through a lot of stuff right now. And they don't always know what to do with it. They don't always have people they can talk to about it. They don't know how to put it into words. And so I came up with this idea of a mail sack that would hold letters. And I teamed up with a grief counselor online who led us through a body-based writing workshop to get people feeling their feelings and then equipping them to put it into words, to write a letter. These letters have been mailed to me here at the folk school. I don't open them, you'll see they're still sealed. But they sit communally here inside the Sack of Sorrows. Once this fills up, we're gonna have a ritual burning ceremony and release what needs to be released. So this is a powerful project. Y'all are welcome to contribute if you might want to. But that came about after I got here to the folk school. So that's what's on the back of this sweet little book. Here I am. That's me. Am I walking away from the focus pull or towards the focus pull? That's me making the rope. Oh, this is sweet. Ah, y'all done wrote in it. Hey. Okay, I'm gonna read these later, of course.
But we have a pen here for everyone else who wants to write
Yes,
it.
please.
Say
Yeah.
or say farewell to Zach in the book.
Say see you soon.
Say
We
see you
want him
soon.
back.
Yeah. And feel free, if I don't have your contact information, feel free to put that in here too. That way we can keep in touch. Oh, this. Oh. Yeah, we've done some things, haven't we? We've done some things. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who had a hand in this. That's really special. Yes, I'll leave that here. Y'all come sign it. Y'all come shake my hand and give me a hug, and I'll see you again soon.
Bye. Martha just gets straight to the point.
Yeah, I gotta go.